My camera's crooked, a fan is going because it's hotter than hell in here, and I'm doing my favorites of 2014, which I didn't think I was going to do because I had a very shitty year in reading. But then I was like, you know what? Screw it. I did read some books that I really enjoyed. These books did not change my view. They did not emotionally impact me. Some of them did, but not a lot of them did. These were books that were fun and happy and exciting, and books that are for people who enjoy reading, I guess. Obviously books are for people who enjoy reading, but I think they're just very fun books, and I wanted to share some fun books with you guys. Normally, to say I would read a mixture of everything, and I did read a mixture of everything this year, but I read a lot more literary fiction normally, deeper books, but this year I wasn't really in the mood. I had sort of a rough year, a transition year, and I wasn't in the mood to read sort of heavy works of literature, and I read some, but I didn't read a lot, as I normally would. I have read more towards the end of the year as I've kind of gotten back into a place where I feel more comfortable with it, and I feel like it won't be as, like, draining. I read The Casual Vacancy right now, for example, which isn't like a super high literature, but it's literary fiction, so I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So these are going to be fun books, and I hope you enjoyed it. There's 15 books on this list because I am a failure and I didn't pick 14, I picked 15. So let's just do this. Alright, I'm going to do something really obvious first. My nose is really stuffed up for some reason. Okay, obvious pants. Saga Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3. I haven't read Volume 4 yet, okay guys? What is with my hair? I just noticed how bad that looks. God, Emma. You suck. Okay. Anyway, Saga Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3. I really, really love these. Duh. I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, everybody loves them. They're fantastic. Okay, next. Another obvious. I'm doing all the obvious ones first. Harry Potter, Order of Phoenix, and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Hadn't read these before. Loved them, with a capital L. I think I talked about how not a lot of books this year impacted me emotionally, but these definitely did, and especially The Order of Phoenix. You watch my little It's Only tag, which you should, and then all of you should do, because it's really, I think it's a good tag. Especially coming into winter months. Why am I whispering like this? I flipping just had a very emotional moment with this book, and it means a lot to me, and I just, ooh, it's so good. Okay, next. Dorothy Must Die by Daniel Page. This book isn't a high work of literature, but it's fun. It is so fun, and I don't feel like a lot of people on BookTube have read this book, and I don't know why, because it's so much fun. If you want to read something that will just be a good time, it'll feel like you're watching a movie, it feels like it should be a TV show, read this. If you don't know what it's basically about a girl who goes to Oz, and she's gonna have to assassinate Dorothy, because Dorothy's gotten bad shit evil, and it's so much fun. The greatest thing about this book, it twists and puts, like, evil and good on its head, and sort of flips everything around, and strikes that, and reverses it, and it's just a lot of fun. If you like Wizard of Oz, I don't like the movie because it scared the bejeebus out of me when I was a child, but I like kind of, you know, the Frank L. Baum world of Oz. I love Tin Man, for example, the miniseries was Zoe Deschanel, and I just ended up really enjoying this book, and I can't wait for the sequel. It was just really fun. There's some controversy surrounding the publishing of this book, but I don't know. For me, it was worth it. I read it before all the controversy, and I just really enjoyed it, and I think more people should read this because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Okay, next. Shadow of Night by Deborah Harkness. I've talked about this, but not in too much depth. This is a sequel to A Discovery of Witches, which I've also read this year. If you don't know what this series is about, it is about a woman, she's like 35, who is a professor who takes a sabbatical to go back to her alma mater at Oxford to do research, basically, and she's a witch, but she doesn't really want to be a witch, and she kind of is like, oh, I don't want to be a witch, and kind of like practical magic, and she meets this guy who's a vampire, and he's like a cool vampire, not like an annoying vampire, like a badass, like, vampire, like a Buffy vampire, kind of like Angel. He reminds me a lot of Angel, actually, from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and he's an academic, and they sort of fall in love, and it's about her sort of accepting who she is, and there's a lot of political stuff, and there's demons in it, and just, it's really interesting and historical, because Deborah Harkness is a historian. I actually had to use a textbook that she wrote for last semester in one of my history classes. It's just a great book, and the sequel is so good. I haven't read the Book of Life, finished the Book of Life yet, because it's huge, and it's a hardback, and I hate hardbacks. The Shadow Knight is wonderful. It's time travel, guys. It's time travel and history, and people find this book to be laborious or boring, but I thought it was really great, so it's really good, guys. Lexicon by Max Berry. You probably heard a little bit about this book. I'm sure you have. I learned about it through the Book Riot podcast. I got it for my birthday in May. Read it in May. Loved it. Gave it to my friend to read. He loved it. It was just fabulous. If you don't know what this book is about, I'm not going to tell you because I think it's good to go into this book blind. It's about words. That's what you should know. And it's a book that reminded me a lot of Ready Player One. Not in the themes per se, but, or in the, like, plot, but sort of in the tone. It has a similar tone as Ready Player One. It's very fast-paced, weird, you don't know what's going on, but it's really great and wonderful, and I would read it. I would read it. It takes a minute to get into because sort of the language is a little bit different and the writing is a little bit different, and it kind of pushes you right in there, but it's a really fun book. Okay, next. Hex Hall and Rebel Belle, which is up there, but I don't feel like getting it because I sort of have the book pyramid, by Rachel Hawkins. I love Rachel Hawkins. I've had a wonderful relationship with Rachel Hawkins for a few years. I read Hex Hall when I was like 15, and I really loved it. It was just great, and it really got me into reading. Or a couple other books that got me into reading, but Hex Hall was one of them. And this is the third book. I finally read Spellbound. Oh, we loved it. I love Demon Glass the most. That's the second book, and they're so quick, guys. Like, such quick books. You could read them in like 3 hours, maybe less. I think I read the first book in an hour and a half. They're so quick. They're almost like middle grade in how fast you can read them, but they're wonderful. They're, again, not the most emotional books. They're not deep, but they do touch on things that I think are important. They touch on relationships with family and parents. They touch on finding yourself and accepting who you are, and there's a love triangle in it, but not really, like, which I love, because it's like, ooh, hinting, but there's never really a love triangle, because the main character, Sophie, knows what she wants, and she's not going back and forth about it, which I loved. This book is great, and Rebel Belle I loved also. It was a lot of fun. Okay, next. Hollow City by Ransom Riggs. I read Miss Peregrine's also this year. Loved Hollow City, I think, more than Miss Peregrine's, but I loved it. I loved it. It reminded me of, like, just the most creepy, fun Halloween of my childhood. It reminded me a lot of Halloween, in specifically my childhood, because my family gets very into Halloween, and I used to have these insane Halloween parties when I was a kid, and my dad would make a trail out in our yard, and it was creepy and weird and intense, and it was a lot of fun, and I don't know, I just loved this. I loved it. It was great. It was great. It was great. Okay, next. Another YA book is To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I actually did not read that much YA. These are most of the books that I read that were YA. But I just like them, I think, more than I like the adult books that I read this year for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe it's because they were a little lighter. But To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han was fantastic. You probably know what this book's about. It was wonderful. I got it for my birthday, and I just really loved it. I really, really loved it. It was just, it had such a great portrayal of sisterhood, which I particularly loved, because I think it's important to portray sisters in a way that's real and honest, and it reminded me of Jane Austen in that way. Not that's the only way it reminded me of Jane Austen, but it sort of did. The letter writing, maybe, but... Okay, next. I Will Happily Ever After by Stephanie Perkins. This book, actually, I didn't love it. I liked it, but I didn't love it. But I love the whole series, so I decided to add it. The thing about Stephanie Perkins is that it seems you either love her or you just hate her and wish that all of her books would die in a fire. And I'm on the other side of that. I find these books to be just happy, lovely, wonderful books. Again, do not take them for literary, like, huge literary value. Take them for what they are. Cute books that do deal with some stuff that teenage girls deal with, and stuff that I know I've dealt with, especially Isla had some stuff in here that I really dealt with, and Lola too. It's just a book that isn't supposed to, you know, be Toni Morrison. You just take it as it is, and I just find these books to be just lovely and are great. I think my favorite in the series is Lola, which I know is weird because everyone hates Lola, but I actually really loved it. Okay, next. Another young adult book, which I've talked about. The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Mindy by Sherman Alexie. This book was one of the few books this year that just impacted me so much. Tore through me. I want to reread it again. It reminds me of Perks Being a Wallflower in the way that it impacted me. It was beautiful and heartbreaking, and I had such a book hangover after I finished it, and was like, I don't even know what I want to do. But it was just wonderful. It was just absolutely delightful and wonderful and sad and beautiful, and it made me cry, and it just, Next, a book you might not have heard of, but I've talked about a little bit, is The Year of Reading Dangerously, How 50 Great Books Saved My Life by Andy Miller. This book is great. This book is great. My mom got this for me when she went to London, and I flipping loved it. It's a memoir about reading, and it's great, and it's beautiful, and it's heartbreaking, but also amazing, and I honestly don't even remember a lot of it. I just remember really loving it. And he talks about how to read classics, which I think is really cool. Okay, finally, out of my physical books, I have 3 books here that are, I don't have with me, so just go with it. I have Yes Please by Amy Poehler. Duh. I read this shortly after I'd read Not That Kind of Girl, and as Not That Kind of Girl left a bad taste in my mouth, and it was not what I was expecting. But Yes Please was everything I wanted to be and more. It just was just a wonderful book, and such an inspiring book, and a book I plan on rereading and rereading. One of my favorite essays in this book was the essay about her experience on SNL doing a sketch that ended up hurting this young woman, or it was like offensive towards this young woman, and it was just a beautiful essay on really forgiving and accepting and apologizing, and it was beautiful, and I cried, and it was great, and oh, Amy Poehler. Yes, please. Emily, you and I can talk about this. Yes. Okay, I have to look over here. Alright, so Just One Day by Gail Forman, another young adult book I read earlier this year that I loved. It was a book that emotionally impacted me. Beginning of the year, I was reading more books that emotionally impacted me because my life hadn't really changed too much. So I read it, and it was just so good. I talked about this in my Little Less Lonely tag. It was very good. It was very, very good. I loved it. I loved it. I'm not going to read If I Stay, or Where She Went, or that other one that's coming out, I Was Here, because they don't appeal to me. I'm not someone who enjoys reading books about death. It's not that I'm, like, uncomfortable or weirded out, it's just that I tend to not enjoy those books. So you can recommend those, and I bet they're great books. I just don't want to really read them. I don't know. They just don't interest me, I guess. Okay, The Diviners by Libba Bray. I love Libba Bray. I love Libba Bray. The Diviners was so good. Holy crap on a crap stick. If you haven't read The Diviners, read it. If you don't like YA, read The Diviners, because read anything by Libba Bray. Well, read Beauty Queens and The Diviners by Libba Bray, because they do not feel like YA. The Diviners is so magical, literally, and beautiful, and thick, and heavy, and such a great book for fall and winter. It's a book you can just dive into, and you're sucked into this world of the 1920s, and magic, and the occult, and it's just, oh, it's fabulous. Okay, this video is getting really long, I feel like, but, you know, I told you it was going to be long. Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I haven't read Rune and Rising. Wait, Rune and Rising? I think so, yes. Shadow and Bone was just very, very good. Siege and Storm was also very good, but Shadow and Bone was so good. I love the world building in this. It was just amazing and interesting and fascinating. Such a quick read. It gave me such a book hangover. Like, I want to reread it like tomorrow. It's so, so, so good. Okay. Is that all of them? I think that's all of them. I think that's all of my favorites of this year. Oh, another one, North End Gravity by Jane Austen. Oh, yes, my girl, Jane Austen. Oh, so good. Oh, amazing. So I think that's everything. Tell me your favorite books of the year. Tell me books that I should be reading that I didn't read. Tell me all of the things. Anyway, have a wonderful day.